You met a lot of people, right?
Oh,
World leaders. You met Putin.
Yeah.
You met Maduro, I think.
Yeah, Maduro.
You met Putin.
Yeah.
You met Chavez,
Castro.
Lula, Castro,
Yeah.
Netanyahu. Which one of them?
Shimon Peres and Netanyahu. Yeah, you're right.
Which one of them that after you spent time with them, walked away, you had a bad impression of them first, but later on you're like, well, you know what? I don't have a bad impression. Which one of them were you like, oh, I was neutral, but I walked away saying, I don't know if I like this guy?
Netanyahu, yeah. I thought he was a mad.
I mean, should it come as an eye-opener? What makes a leader truly dangerous? Welcome back, everybody, to Zees Political Couch. Oliver Stone just reveals which world leader left him the most uneasy. Bibi Netanyahu, but why? Through this eye-opening discussion, we'll explore the mix of personal vendettas, relentless ambition, and high-stakes politics that have shaped Netanyahu to be the man who he is today through a controversial legacy. Let's dive in.
He was very extreme back in 2002. He was going on, and then the bomb went off as we was talking to us. It's in the film. It's called...
Persona non grata.
What?
Persona non grata.
Persona non grata. Yeah, because he goes over to the window and he says, look, that's... And he's right. There was a bomb that was going off in a grocery store. So he was like very concerned, but he had suffered greatly because his brother, Johnny Johan, was killed in the raid in
Uganda, wasn't it? The Uganda raid against...
They made a movie about it. What was it called?
Yeah, I don't remember the film.
The Uganda... the dictator of Uganda had taken hostages, and the Israelis went in with a commando attack, and they succeeded, and they made 2 movies about it, one with Charles Bronson. It was wonderful. But his brother was the only one killed in that raid from the Israeli side. He was killed at the very end. So he was a hero in Israel. There was a lot of vengeance, personal hatred of the Muslim. I felt that with him, that he did not trust them at all. And I felt that it was echoed by, but other people like Rabin and I also, Perez, Shimon was saying, we have to get along, always. That was his, but at the same time, he also said, you cannot trust the Arabs because what they write, what their handwriting, the way they write is very flowery, and it's not objective like scientific. That's his interpretation. So it was an interesting viewpoint. Even Shimon, who was as humanitarian a person as I know, had distrust of the Arabs. And it's fundamental. My first wife was Lebanese, so I felt differently. I liked them. I was spent time in Lebanon before the war, 75. So I have no problem. And like Sean says, I feel like it's closer to the Crusades than it is to a religious issue.
So Netanyahu,
East-West.
Netanyahu was the only one that you walked away.
Yeah, he was dangerous. He was, because he had such passion, and he had a desire. He was young and strong and amazing stamina. Look at this. He's lasted like Putin. He's lasted 23 some years, and in business like this. And look what he's done, though. He's taking us closer to the nuclear winter than ever. There's no other person alive that is as dangerous. He's lobbied actively for a war against Iran, which is going to be a war not just against Iran, it's going to be a war against China, it's going to be a war against Russia. It's a very dangerous man. I mean, Syria, he's gloating over Syria, but that's not over. It's going to come back and haunt him. This thing is so ugly, it's gotten out of hand, and that's because of us supporting Israel blindly without ever questioning them. Kennedy questioned them. That was the whole point that, Kennedy said this nuclear thing is going to stop. We're not going to give them nuclear weapons. And he was adamant about it, and he was going to stop it. When Johnson took over after the assassination, Johnson turned a blind eye to it. When we knew for sure that they had a weapon in 1967, Johnson made sure they didn't announce it. The Pentagon did not announce it.
What do you think also about, this policy shift? It wasn't like it was always adamantly whatever Israel wants until 2001. That's when the neocons take over. That's when the 9/11 justifies all these wars in the Middle East, so-called justifies. Obviously, what did it do? Did it bring benefit to the American people? Did it stabilize anything? No, we destabilized that region. But as I said, it's been all Israel policy and mostly Netanyahu policy. And Netanyahu is closer to Hamas. I mean, that's what's really curious, when you look at the history that, as you know, Netanyahu and company hated Arafat, right? So they, as back in the 80s, they actually allowed Hamas to grow. That's now known that Israel was essentially allowing Hamas to grow into this beast because it played off against Arafat's, PLO and those guys, Fatah and those guys. So they use that, and I think that's what's so curious is that Hamas is almost, it truly is Netanyahu's best weapon. I mean, at the moment that he was being indicted in the Supreme Court, I think there's a new documentary about Bibi's file, I think it's called. It's
BB
nominated.
File.
Yeah, it's being nominated for Best Picture, exposing all this corruption that he was charged with. He was gone. And then October 7th comes, and it justifies everything. It's like these moments, that justify war,
it's
as
very
you know.
interesting.
Very
Right.
much provocative,
You should study that.
The BB files?
The BB files, I think.
Well, it came at that very strange moment when he's about to go. Remember how close he came to being evicted?
So the angle you're taking with him is the moment you realize what happened to his brother in Uganda, which was the only one you're saying that died. From that moment on, this went from being, just a job or a career that I'm going to do because I love Israel to
Personal passion.
a personal passion, crusade, cause, correcting an injustice.
Well, we didn't know him before, so you can't say what he was.
Well, I knew him at that point.
But I'm saying, before, and he was those guys were true believers from the beginning. But he, people say he was part of killing Rabin. He created that atmosphere, if nothing else. Netanyahu did. Remember when Rabin was killed? Netanyahu was
That's the
playing up
brother,
that
yeah.
atmosphere.
Who was
So
a,
Yonatan was an Israeli military
really,
officer, commanded Sayeret Matkal during the
was a Harvard graduate, I think.
Was he Harvard graduate?
Yeah,
Go a little older.
he briefly attended.
Give some United States.
He was a real hero.
After serving in the Israeli military during the Six-Day War, he briefly attended Harvard University before transferring to Hebrew University, Jerusalem, 1960. Thereafter, he was studied, returned to military in Israel. So what year did he die? 76. Is this his older brother?
Yes.
This is his older brother.
Yes.
How many years apart are they? Can you check to see when Bibi was born? Because he's 46. I don't think Bibi's into. Okay. So 3 years older. Got it. Interesting. And this has been a commitment he's made to his brother to seek his vengeance. Is that kind of how you process it?
It was the origin of this passion.
Don't you think for somebody to get to that level of power, you almost need something like this, like to get to that level? I mean, look at Trump. He doesn't drink any alcohol. Why not? You know the story with his brother Fred, right? We hear those stories, right?
Although it was a decision before.
It was a decision before, you're right, because he told him, look, listen to me, never drink alcohol, never drink alcohol. And he's like, I'm not going to do it. And he tells his kids.
Did he learn that from Roy Cohn? I don't know if Roy Cohn was taught him.
Roy was a drinker, remember in the movie?
Oh, okay.
Did you watch The Apprentice?
Yeah.
What did you
yeah.
think about it?
I saw it twice.
Me too. I saw it twice in the first week.
I much enjoyed it. Very well done.
What was your
And
impression?
I didn't walk away thinking that Trump was the monster of all time. That was part of that whole campaign. That's why the Democrats overdid it. They overdid everything
The
on
movie
Trump.
flopped. I don't know why.
I
it
always
flopped.
said to you, if you remember correctly, I said the worst president we've ever had was George W. Bush. And I told you why. Because he started the whole war on terror. And I said, what's Trump compared to that? And, why are the Democrats having this hysteria about derangements and no one paid attention. But wait until this thing is cleared. If we ever get through it, we're going to have to look back at that period from 2001.
How do you think?
And that phony election with the Chads and all that. That was the worst moment for me in this century. I remember that night so well when I was going south with his Scalia jumping in on the Florida thing and saying there's an irregularity here, and then they suspended the recount. Remember?
You wanted Gore at that time?
I did want Gore, yes. And I think it was a key election. I thought it was the whole century turned on it in a way. It was a strange date. It was one of those things like the McKinley election in 1900.
Before we wrap up here, it's clear why Benjamin Netanyahu stands out as one of the most disliked leaders today. His story is fueled by personal vendetta, rooted in the tragic loss of his late brother during a raid in Uganda. That kind of trauma can shape anyone, but in Bibi's case, it seems to have sparked a relentless, almost obsessive pursuit of power and a hardened stance on security. But it's not just personal tragedy driving his controversial legacy, from lobbying for war with Iran to enabling the rise of Hamas as a counterbalance to Arafat. Netanyahu's strategic moves often blur the lines between defense and aggression. election. His actions, shrouded in the mix of patriotism and personal passion, have stirred global unrest and criticism. And let's not forget the political theater, dodging corruption charges, fueling tensions, and somehow always landing on his feet like a cat with 9 lives, or maybe just one really stubborn one. So is it any surprise that he's one of the most disliked leaders today? Not really. But with a track record like his, the real question is, how does he keep getting away with it? Thanks for tuning in at Zee's Political Couch. I'm your host Z. If you like this video, please share and subscribe. Until next time, stay curious, stay critical, and keep questioning the narrative. Bye for now.